Welcome back to another episode of On the Fly, a Financial Literacy Institute podcast. Today, I'm flying solo due to some unforeseen circumstances that hopefully work themselves out to be better than we've originally heard. But regardless of that, today we have a guest named JR Garcia. And JR is somebody that I got connected to about 3 or 4 months ago due to our mutual interest in real estate. So
Yep.
JR is down in Fort Worth, Texas. He has gotten himself into the Airbnb game, but like myself, like Zach, and like Inca, he's also a graduated engineer and he works at Lockheed Martin, which, as someone who grew up loving airplanes, loving the movie Top Gun, and has been obsessed with Top Gun since Top Gun Maverick came out, seeing people in the aerospace industry is one of the coolest things I can ever imagine. So I can only think about the things that JR does on a daily basis at Lockheed Martin, and I'm sure we'll talk about it here in a little bit. But without further ado, JR, how are you doing today?
Bro, I'm doing excellent, man. I appreciate you asking, bro. It's an honor. It's a blessing to be here, bro. Appreciate you.
Absolutely, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to come join us. So, for the audience sake, do you mind giving everybody a background about yourself and kind of how you got started and what inspired you to get into real estate?
Yeah, man. So I'm 25 years old. I'm from originally from Arlington, Texas, and been there all my life. My family really is from South Texas and also from Mexico. So with living here, man, I really was growing up more on the hands-on side of real estate. So just to give a little bit of background, my mom, she actually started her landscaping business when I was in middle school, man. So it was just her, my uncle, and I would help every now and then planting plants, cutting yards, doing little jobs. She eventually went into like subcontractor type of work, kind of fixing bathrooms, fixing kitchens, things like that. And eventually, her and one of my other uncles started to partner with actually flipping houses. So they've been doing that for the past 5 years. And I just kind of been involved kind of here and there helping with projects. And so that's how I got the hands-on side of things. But with kind of just going through high school, I started to get interested in engineering, more so from a solar car team. So we actually had a team in high school where we would build a solar car from scratch, basically. So we had an auto shop, we had a welding shop, and I was the guy that would, cut the metal, do the welds, grind the frame to look all pretty. And I had a buddy that was the captain, and he was the one that was doing everything I was doing and more. So he would be doing the 3D modeling, he'd be doing the 3D printing and all these kind of like technical things. And I'm just like, dang, bro, that looks kind of cool. Like I want to learn how to do that. I want to learn how to basically get on the more engineering design side of things so I could be able to really build cool things and build them better. So that's how I got into the engineering route. Throughout college, man, I had to just push through the math. It's a whole lot of math, and would just help my mom with projects every now and then throughout college. But now, since I'm on the graduated side and I am thankfully, have a good salary with an engineering job, I'm now trying to get on the investor side of things and really just doing all that I can to learn a lot about financing, a lot about different lanes and making money in real estate. And right now, my first kind of big investment, you could say, in real estate has been a house hack. And, of course, we could talk in detail about that, but the house hack was kind of the more path of least resistance to get into real estate. Kind of practice your property management skills on your own property and get different sources of income from the tenants. And yeah, man, it's all, I'm only 2, 3 months in, and it's thankfully been pretty awesome.
That's great. I'm glad to hear it. And just for our viewers' sake, if they're not familiar with a house hack, can you explain what a house hack is?
Yes. So basically, the purpose of a house hack is for an individual to buy a single family, not a single family, to buy a primary residence, basically saying, I'm buying this home for the purpose of me living in it. And that home purchase could be anywhere from a single family all the way up to a 4 unit, so a fourplex. And the purpose of getting one of these is so you live in one part of the home and you rent out the other units of the home for the purpose of your tenants basically paying all of your living expenses, your mortgage, your bills, and even some money set aside so that you just kind of save money for a rainy day. So for example, for me, I went the single family home route. And so I bought a 3 bedroom, 2 bath home, 2,300 square feet. So it had a lot of space. And at first, I was thinking, you know what? I want to buy a home with a tiny house in the back so I could live in the tiny house and like Airbnb the front so I can have all my privacy. But ended up coming across a really cool house, very kind of nature-esque, really good price. And I decided to purchase this home without that tiny house, kind of convert the 3 bedroom into a 4 bedroom because it had 2 dining rooms and 2 living rooms. And I was thinking, you know what, my tenants don't need all this space. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I made it a fourth bedroom. So I'm living in 1 bedroom, and the master bedroom at the very back, it has its own little entrance into it, right? And so I figured, okay, this master bedroom is really big. The entrance has like its own little hallway before you get to the really big room. And it was kind of just like an empty hallway. I figured, you know what? With the skills that I have and with asking assistance from my mom, we could put a whole kitchen in this thing, you know? And with my uncle being an electrician, I said, hey, man, you think you can run a wiring so you could run a washer and dryer in this thing? So we made it this basically whole little guest studio, bro. And we did a little trail, or I paid someone to kind of do a little trail to the back. So now it's like its own little private guest studio. They have their own private entrance. I don't ever even see them, right? Besides when I look on the little Google Home camera just to make sure that it's all good. And so now, bro, my house hack is now a 4 bedroom. The master bedroom is its own thing, cash flowing on Airbnb. And I have 2 other rooms available, which thankfully I got 2 buddies to live with me. So it's not as uncomfortable, right? Because when you think single family home, you think house hack, you think, damn, I don't want no roommates. That's what everyone always says. I couldn't do that, roommates. But for me, I did get a single family home and I got 2 buddies to live with me. So that's what a house hack is. That's what my house hack is. And yeah, man, it's going.
And thank you for giving the explanation on that too. You really like hit the pot of gold here in terms of your house hack, because most people think of a house hack as just renting out the other bedrooms to, say, like friends like you are, which you're doing, but you also have that master bedroom space. And from seeing it on Airbnb, like the pictures you have and the decorating you did, it's dope. And I'm impressed with the theme you did with it. I'm impressed with how well it comes together, and just being or having the foresight to throw a kitchen in there, throw a washer and dryer, because it's such a large space. You're taking care of not only the extra bedrooms in the main portion of the house, but then you have that kind of free cash flow from the Airbnb side. So kudos to you for not only finding this property, but having the vision to bring it all together, take down walls, put up walls, make extra bedrooms out of a living room. Like that's really like finding a diamond in the rough. And the fact that it's on your first deal, I'm amazed to see kind of how your next deals are going to go too, and what you're going to be able to put together. So now, you mentioned earlier about kind of growing up in the entrepreneurial, the business side of things, and seeing real estate from your mom and from your uncle. And do you think that when you're like growing up and seeing that, is there anything that maybe they experienced or stuff that they told you that gave you kind of a negative feeling towards real estate, or was it the exact opposite?
So I would say it would probably not be anything that they told me, but one thing that, man, I don't even know if I would say it would motivated me to get into real estate or it made me question it. But one thing that I would notice with my mom and my uncle is that uh, they would really kind of just be a two-person team. And crazily enough, my mom would do mostly all of the work flipping homes. So I would see her like I've seen her strip a house damn near to the bones and just have a few like subcontractor jobs within it, but still fixing all of it. Right. And so first off, just seeing her being able to do that on her own, like really opened my eyes. And I thought, wow, this is freaking amazing that my mom could do this, right? But over time, I started to realize that she is more of a, if you want it done right, you have to do it yourself. Because a lot of these
Hmm.
subcontractors, bro, I completely understand. They're kind of shady. They don't do the greatest job, bro. So I understand her perspective of struggling to let go of that, of that rope. But just kind of seeing that, I'm I thought, man, if you can start to network with solid contractors, you can now start to do multiple jobs at once and kind of do more of what you like to do, you know? So just really seeing that, seeing how much she's able to make with even just doing most of it her own self, it's not scalable, but she's been able to make a good income from that. So from my perspective, seeing her being able to do that, as well as understanding that through networking you can find solid contractors you can trust. I think those two things is what really made me really interested in wanting to get into real estate.
Okay. And it's the big principle of delegate and elevate. And I've experienced in my life too, where I think that I'm the best at doing whatever task it is, and that if I pay somebody else to do it, the quality is going to suffer. And there's some validity to that. The quality may suffer a little bit, but
Mhm.
like you mentioned, in terms of scalability, you'll cap yourself out pretty quick, especially like in your case, working a full-time job and then trying to do this on the side. Your time is very limited. So
Mhm.
it comes to a point too where you see, okay, if I pay somebody to do this task, yes, it's going to reduce my profit or reduce my cash flow, but the time that I save from not doing it can be better utilized for something else.
Mhm.
And two, working your full-time job, you don't want to have to go leave the office in the middle of the day to handle a problem that is going to take care of the rest of your day, maybe take a vacation day, maybe piss your boss off, all
Yeah.
because you don't have a maintenance person to unclog a toilet or something like that. I see it every day, even with my properties, and what has motivated me to scale up and take some of the work off my plate. So you did mention earlier too that since it's a house hack, you're kind of managing it yourself.
Mhm.
Or do you see that being feasible long term, or at least while you're living here in this property?
So not quite. So in order to obtain this house hack, bro, I was just to quickly jump into like the numbers. Before I got this house, I was living in Las Colinas, Texas. It was after I graduated college, started to make we say a grown man income instead of a college student income, and I kind of spoiled myself. I was paying around $2,000 for rent and bills and all that. Nice apartment, really nice, area, and it was a good experience, bro. I was in my own space. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about real estate. But towards the end of the month, the clock was ticking, man. So I my finances weren't the best because I was paying so much in rent, but I started to scrounge up money from wherever I could to be able to put the down payment on the house, on a house hack, and just make it happen, bro. So since I did that, I almost depleted all my money for this house hacking. People are gonna say, "Bro, like, what are you doing? That's risky." Like, that's not a conventional safe real estate investment. It is what it is. I'm just more of a risky person, right? It's risk, but it's calculated risk at the end of the day. And I was relying on credit cards and stuff in a responsible way. But since I kind of did deplete those funds in a sense, a lot of the work I did have to do myself, right, to set it all up and kind of get scrappy with finding decent quality furniture on Facebook, going to pick it up, right, finding used washer and dryer machines. I thankfully did have enough money to get them to bring it in and install it for me. Little things where I could save time, I would. But overall, man, these few months, the Airbnbs have been in operation for a few weeks, and this has been in operation for about a month. For these next few months, I will do the cleaning. I will do just any issues that come up. Um, But after a few months, man, after I start to save this income and not have to pay mortgage and stuff, I'm going to absolutely put a cleaner in place to be able to fix the Airbnb or clean the Airbnb as well as clean this part of the house out because although I live in it, there's shared spaces and none of us are always going to want to be cleaning after each other. So it's kind of important to have a cleaner maybe once every 2 weeks. That's a strong incentive that I would recommend people have little incentives like that. Like, yo, it comes furnished. There's a cleaner that comes once every 2 weeks so that we're not really responsible for the mess that we all make each other. So to answer your question, bro, in a few months, I am going to delegate that stuff.
Hmm. And it's important too, I think, when you first start out with your first maybe one or two rental properties, managing them yourselves and doing some of the work, even on the renovation side yourself, is a phenomenal learning process. Yes, it's going to take longer. Yes, it may not be as good of work as if like a professional contractor did it, but the skills and the knowledge you're going to gain from doing that, it's going to allow you to properly vet contractors down the road
Yeah,
and understand what quality work is and what quality work isn't, and two, just knowing enough to be dangerous. And then another
yeah.
thing that I really want to stress that you talked about was the depleting all your savings and basically depleting your I guess your safety net in order to get this house. And it ties into kind of the Grant Cardone methodology where he always talks about he wants to be broke all the time because anytime he gets his money saved up, he buys another asset that's going to eventually make him money. And that's more the long-term thought process of spending, whatever you have saved up right now in order to just get in the game and get a
Mhm.
good property because in the long run, because you depleted all your savings to get this property, the amount of appreciation it's going to have, especially down in Dallas Fort Worth area. Not only that, the area you chose is tremendous, but
It is.
the pay down of a mortgage, the appreciation of rent long term. I mean, you're gonna look back 20 years from now and be like, I wish I would have bought two or three at that point. Like, how do I get into it that much more? But
Yeah.
one other question I did have for you too, in terms of the mortgage you went with and the down payment, did you go conventional? Did you go 5, 10, 20%? How did that look?
Yeah. So when it comes to a house hack, the reason why it's easier to get into than like a rental property that you're going to buy, it's because you do have the advantage of using two main types of loans. There's a few more, but the two main ones is a conventional loan, a conventional 3% down loan, or an FHA 3.5% down loan. The conventional side of things is more for people who do have decent to good credit and that do have a decent income to be able to qualify for that, right? And the main benefit of conventional loan is that you don't have to pay for private mortgage insurance throughout the lifetime of the loan, right? Which basically that's just insurance that you have to pay if you put less than 20% down. As soon as you get to 20%, you can take it off. For FHA, 3.5%. But people always get like they shy away from it or that they I guess they look away from it because you have to pay PMI for the entire life of the loan. But if you think about it, man, if you can get a fourplex for 3.5% down, bro, that's a cheat code, really. No matter the PMI, you just have to run the numbers and kind of include that in your analysis. For me, since I got a single family home and I had a decently good income, good credit, I went with the 3% conventional loan. Um, so yeah, man, that's that 3% conventional. I also was able to negotiate seller's credits, which I'm learning that a lot of people don't really know about. What seller's credits is basically when you're in the process of the time period when you make the offer for the home, you can basically get an inspection and see if there's any work that needs to be done to the house. And you can ask the seller, hey man, I'm willing to pay the price that you're asking for, but could you please give me around 5 to 10K in seller's credits? What that does is that goes right into your closing costs, right? Because you have a 3% down for the loan, but you also pay around 3% for closing costs in general. So that started to add up for me, right? So I asked the guy for 11K in seller's credits, and he was nice enough to give it to me. I didn't think it was going to happen, but he was nice enough to give it to me. That went all to my closing costs. And honestly, without that, bro, it would have been tough to get the home. Right? I'm not gonna lie. So 3% conventional, good a decent amount of seller's credits because I asked for it because I wasn't scared to ask for it, and it happened. So that 3% down in the convention and the credits really helped me get into this home.
And you covered a few important things there. So the first of that is the different types of mortgages in terms of the FHA versus the conventional. And it's often a strategy used by people who are buying their first house or even their second house, but they plan on making it a full rental or even a partial rental down the road. When you go with
Mm-hmm.
the lower down payments, the 3%, the 5%, the 10% as a primary residence, and then when you turn it into a rental, maybe after a year or 2 years of living there, it's less net cash outflow on the upfront. So then
Mm-hmm.
technically your cash on cash return long term when you're running the numbers looks a lot better because getting into that investment costs you less money up front, which is one of the brilliant benefits of doing either a house hack or even a live and flip. And then
Yep.
the second thing too that you touched on was that the oh, what was I gonna say? Shoot, it slipped my head, or my bad, my bad. But yeah, so when you or no, actually I got it now. When you talked about the seller credit, it's because you did an inspection. And we had a lot of over the last couple years where people were foregoing expense or inspections where they were paying 10, 20, 30, 40 grand over asking price and just throwing down more cash at the closing table because they wanted to get into that property. it
Mm-hmm.
it stresses me out when I hear people tell me that they don't use inspections and they buy a property without an inspection because they just want a house so bad. And
Mm-hmm.
even like, especially for investment properties, that's not the way to do it. Personal residence, you can justify it more because you're living there, but even then, it gives me extreme anxiety. But when you talked about getting those credits, there's a couple ways that those credits can go. Like what you did, getting that cash at closing or on the table to kind of buy down either your closing costs or your down payment, or
Mm-hmm.
you can use it to decrease the total like purchase price of the property. Say maybe the property was agreed upon for 200,000. You got 10K in closing credits. You could make that property 190,000. There's a couple
Mm-hmm.
strategies that go that way. But the big thing I've learned too, especially from my real estate agent, is that if you get an inspection and you find things that need fixed, you can end up getting more money if you just ask for a credit versus telling the seller to fix it themselves. Yeah,
Yeah.
you'd have to go through the hassle of fixing it yourself. Or if you know that you're going to knock this wall down and there's an electrical issue in the wall, you tell them you need 500 bucks to fix this electrical issue, but you're going to knock the wall down anyways. They'll give you more money than it would probably cost in order to fix it. So that's a good way
Mm-hmm.
kind of to chip away at the total cost of the property.
Yeah, yeah. One thing to point for me, man, the reason I really wanted the seller's credits to go towards my closing costs is because, uh, again, I was damn near depleting all my funds. And if you do put it towards decreasing the price of the home, I mean, you're paying less interest over time, but really, bro, that would only decrease the monthly payment by like 100, maybe, $50, $80. And so for me, it was just like, yo, how could I just get into this house with, at least money possible? So that's why for me, it made the most sense, to go towards the seller's credits, to the closing costs, just for anyone who is, at dire needs of the initial cost, put it towards the closing cost.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great strategy and it's I'm glad that it worked out for you. So, looking kind of now that you have this property up and running, you've been at the house hack for like a month or two now and then the Airbnb for about a month. What's next for JR Garcia in terms of real estate?
Yeah, man. So right now, what I'm really interested in is what's called a land hack, right? So that's where you basically buy a property with a lot of land on it, and you basically build Well, you basically can get multiple sources of income from one piece of land, right? And the main way is you build a few tiny homes or little glam sites, and you rent those out. People love that stuff, right? You make it look nice, you make it look real Instagrammable, bro. Those
Yep.
things cash flow, right? And another thing you can do is a wedding venue, right? Those things cash flow like crazy too. Or you could do some sort of little garden. Different things you could do with one piece of land. And so one thing to point out with that is different ways to get that land. You can buy it raw, right, with nothing on it, out in the boonies. You're gonna have to put 40, 50, 60% down because banks look at land and they're like, bro, it's out there, there's nothing on it, we can't appraise it, right? You're gonna have to give us a chunk of change if you want a loan on this. But if you get a property with a home already on it, then you can now use a residential loan. Now it's appraisable. Now I can put 5% down. I can't quite put 3% because I already used that, but I can do a 5% down if I want to wait another 10 months. Or if I'm extremely eager to get into that, there's what you call a 10% down vacation home loan.
Yep.
Vacation rental is classified as long as it's 50 miles away from your area, it would be a vacation rental. And so my deal right now, bro, is to kind of look in the Texas area and see what city kind of has lenient restrictions to be able to build on it, get things permitted easy, and just put a few tiny homes on it, man. And I want to get a one with a decent house in it so that I can Airbnb that house kind of right away, put some furniture in it, minor renovations, make it look pretty, and kind of build those tiny houses a little bit off in the land so that Airbnb guys could have their privacy. And then once those Airbnbs are up and running, man, um, really the reason I want to do a land hack is because I love nature, bro. Right? Texas is nice. Texas business is booming in Texas, but
Hmm.
there's not much nature here. You know, so I do want to get out there kind of in the land and kind of have that experience here in Texas, get that first land hack under my belt, and eventually, bro, go to a beautiful place like Colorado or Wyoming or, national parks and do land hacks there. But for now, my main focus is a land hack here in the Texas area.
Okay. And you're lucky too that you're in Texas where they're very favorable to landlords and investors and businesses. At this point, that may change in the next 5 to 10 years. I hope not, but I mean, from my travels down there, I was in Amarillo, Texas about 2 years ago, and just the vibe and the culture and the people, it's just a cool place. And there's just so much an expanse of land that
Mm,
they're just building houses left and right, and there's still so much land available. Hence why
yeah,
in most places outside of Austin and getting into Dallas, Fort Worth, real estate's pretty cheap down there. And
yeah.
that's very lenient towards young investors that have limited capital but want to get in the game. Now, I'm curious too, kind of to shift gears from the real estate side, given your engineering background in going to school for 4 or 5 years for an engineering degree and now working full time as an engineer, what skills did you learn through engineering that you've now parlayed into real estate and a business?
Yeah, man. So engineering, graduating for mechanical engineering was really tough, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I am a first generation college student, and so I really had to answer a lot of my own questions. I really had to go out there and source the information, go to the study hours, extra credit, all of the above, bro. I had to figure out a lot of that stuff myself, and so through going through that and through pushing those tough assignments, I was able to really kind of see what I'm capable of, seeing that I am able to tackle really technical problems, right? And it overall really just it taught me how to learn something hard, right? And when people look at real estate, I mean, it's intimidating. It's hard. I thankfully had a decent amount of exposure through the hands-on part with my family to understand it better. But even leading from the hands-on to the investor side, that's a whole different ballgame. That's a whole challenge within itself. So really, bro, just going through that engineering school and understanding that I'm able to tackle big problems, it gave me that confidence to be able to understand I could sit down and learn about creative financing. I could sit down and learn about automating my real estate properties. And once I start to get more understanding that I can network with fellow engineers and fellow bright minds through the communication skills I've built with college, that I'll be able to kind of network properly and make those dope connections to be able to grow my business. So all of that gave me the confidence, man, to just dive into real estate.
And there's a common theme I've noticed from people in the engineering field, and they say that the number one skill that they've learned from school and even their full-time jobs is how to solve problems. And
Hmm.
problem solving translates no matter what you're doing, whether it's engineering, whether it's real estate, owning a business, etc. As people that are out in the world trying to make a better life for themselves and create something out of nothing in most cases, there's going to be so many problems to solve. So I give you major props not only for pushing through school, especially in being a first generation college student, but then jumping into real estate and all the ideas you have. And it seems too that you're a very big personal development advocate. So I'm curious, along those realms, whether it's real estate, business, or just knowledge in general, what's your main avenue for seeking out that knowledge?
So seeking out the knowledge of real estate or personal development, bro.
Anything.
Okay. So really, man, I would say it's a part of it. Man, it's an interesting question. So a part of it would be just throughout me growing up, I did have to kind of mature a little sooner than later. I was kind of, you could say, the man of the house. I had two sisters and my mom that I grew up with, and that kind of made me feel that role of, okay, I got to get my shit together,
Hmm.
straight up.
Yep.
So uh, just kind of going through that process and um, understanding that throughout going through high school, being in clubs, and just kind of being expressive and trying to have a positive mindset, I noticed that people would just want to help me. Like if you want to do something cool and you're like motivated to just be a good person, people attract that. People just say, "Hey, like I believe in what you're doing, JR. How can I help you? Here's this opportunity. Here's this network. Here's this book." Just because I'm just on my path and not bothering anyone. And so through that process, I started to get positive feelings in that. And so just kind of pursuing more and more, understanding that I want to be able to kind of change the route of my family legacy, um, would just be exposed to more, be able to expose my family to more. All of that, bro, is making me dig down, stay grounded, and do the hard work. One thing that I'll say is as I'm leveling up, I'm realizing, bro, things only get harder, you know? And as I'm leveling up, I'm being more and more accepting of that. And I'm actually eager to take on more. And I'm prepared for it to get harder. And I tell people, bro, when I pray, I don't pray for God to make the way easier. I pray for God to give me more strength so I can carry more weight and advance more and take on bigger projects in life. So all that combined, man, has really, really helped me seek a lot of knowledge and progress.
And what you said there too, life doesn't get or it doesn't get easier and life gets harder. And there was a quote that one of my coworkers told me a few months back. He said that life doesn't get easier, but we get better at dealing with the hard. And I think it's a quote that a women's college basketball coach said, but it's a very kind of simple way to explain that we continue to step up and we continue to be able to handle more difficult tasks and more difficult situations. And I like to believe that God doesn't give us any challenges that we aren't capable of taking on.
100%.
Because if we weren't capable of taking on, we wouldn't get that challenge yet. But in our personal development journey, as we continue to get better, as we continue to be eager to learn more and to get more information, I've noticed too that even the older generation, people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, if they see a young adult or a young kid who is eager to grow, eager to learn, and just is a sponge for information, they're going to do whatever they possibly can to help you. Because I see it in my life too. And it blows my mind because these people tell me that you'd be mind blown of how many young kids I offer to help that don't accept my help or tell me no. And these are from people that are known within, even like in Ohio, or even known around the country as wealthy individuals, successful individuals.
Mm,
And the fact that they're offering their help to young adults and they're telling them no blows my mind. So it's it's not that difficult to get in the game, and it's not that difficult to find someone that's willing to help you because they're everywhere. You just have to be
mm.
well intentioned about it.
Yeah, bro. One thing that I like to tell people is bro, no matter where you're trying to get to in life, make sure to just put yourself out there. No one's gonna know you unless you put yourself out there, right? I'm not saying start a YouTube channel or post once a week on Instagram. What I'm saying is, if you want to be an engineer and if you want a good job, then go to networking events, go to job fairs, go talk to people and talk about your interests, talk about your projects, talk about your passion. Don't be afraid to express yourself, right? For me now, I'm getting into the real estate lane and I only have one property and it's my property, but I thankfully I've built the confidence and kind of groundedness within myself to say, hey, I'm a real estate investor, right? Like, hey, I'm doing this house hack. It's going great. I'm interested in X and X projects for the future. How are you doing? What's your interest, right? And now, oh wow, you do real estate. Oh wow, my uncle does this, and that. Oh great, can we connect, bro? All that is happening, right? And people are calling me from throughout the U.S., like from a kind of a network that I'm in, and asking me all types of real estate questions. Bro, I'm a beginner, right? And people could just shy away from that, but I'm like, dude, how can I help, right? Let's talk about it. If I don't know it, I'm gonna try to learn it. And so, just through being more vocal about my passions and my projects, bro, opportunities are coming. So I want to kind of say that, guys, don't be afraid to vocalize your passions.
And what you just said there is huge, and I agree completely. If you keep all your ideas and all your visions and goals inside, there you have no idea who could be around you that could help you. But if you tell people, even if you're in the market to look for your next property and you're telling people, hey, I'm trying to buy a property here in Dallas, or I'm trying to buy a property in Akron, if you say that to enough people, chances are someone's going to come up to you and say, hey, look, I'm looking to sell my property, you want to talk about it? And
Mhm.
opportunities come to you the more vocal you are about it. So you're 100% right. And I think that honestly, what you said is the biggest piece of advice that anyone should take away from this episode is just get with people who want to talk about ideas, want to talk about visions, investment ideas, business ideas, and just keep trying to tell that to as many people as possible, because opportunities are just going to come up from you having those conversations.
Yeah, 100%.
So, kind of as we wrap up here, I want to hit you with 4 questions that we typically ask all of our guests. Now, answer these as quickly as you want, and we'll move on to the next from there. But question number 1, since we're in the beginning of 2023, what's your number one goal for the rest of this year?
My number one goal for the rest of this year, man. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't sat down and like actually write them. I still need to do that, but really, man, is I really want to be able to actually complete a successful land hack. Right, that's kind of my main goal. I do have more like personal goals, but that one is going to be my main goal to get a few sources of income from that and just get closer to financial freedom, man. So that's
Yep.
what I would say is my goal for 2023.
I love it. And I have no doubt that not only you'll accomplish that, but then you'll also get your goals written down and posted up on the wall here over the next couple weeks. But
100%.
question number 2, if you had to pick one book that has had the most impact on your life, whether it's financial, real estate, personal development, or anything else, what book would that be?
Bro, I'm gonna be basic and I am going to say Rich Dad Poor Dad, bro. That thing
I love
right
it.
there just blew my mind, bro. So just the way he lays it out, man, the way he uses a lot of analogies, when comparing, he's basically talking to a kid, right? It's kind of how he's writing the story, so anyone can understand it. You know what I mean? And so the biggest thing I got out of that, man, is don't be afraid of leveraging. Of course, that's not recommended to everybody because I'm just gonna be honest, debt is comes with weight. If you can't handle that weight, like I said earlier, it's gonna get heavy, right? But if you are getting financially literate, which I would recommend you guys to tap into the Financial Literacy Institute to get that, then you can start to understand how to manage that better, leverage properly, and start to make a lot of money with other people's money and not even your own, right? And so Rich Dad Poor Dad just gave me the keys, and now I'm unlocking every door that I can, bro.
That book is such a huge mindset shift for so many people, and it's my favorite as well. So, question number three: if you had one piece of advice for a younger version of yourself, what would it be?
Yeah, man. So I would say, man, that's always a big question, but I would say to understand the importance of staying grounded, staying true to yourself, and learning more about yourself, like from the core. All right. Because if you don't do that, if you don't have like that identity defined, your values, your vision, then you kind of just go throughout life floating, bro. You kind of just see that next shiny object and you say, ooh, I want that. Ooh, that's gonna make me feel great. Ooh, you're right. Ooh, just gravitating towards shiny things, bro. And throughout my years of high school and college, I was kind of stuck in that. I was, you could say, progressing, right? Oh wow, look at this guy. He's studying hard things. He's becoming an engineer, and that's great and all, right? But I wasn't grounded and get that internal work. So I would tell myself, hey man, stay grounded, really tap into yourself, learn about yourself so that all these moves that you're making are very intentional, very purposeful, and very fulfilling. That would have made a difference a few years back, but I'm doing it now.
You,
Yeah,
you still hit it. You still hit it quicker than most people too. But you're right. You yourself is the biggest investment that you can make. Investing in yourself is huge. So,
yeah.
question number four: if you had to recommend one guest that we need to have on this podcast, who would it be?
Sheesh. If I were to recommend one guest on this podcast, who would it be? I would have to say my guy, Ricardo Carrillo
Okay.
from San Francisco. Yeah, from San
Yep.
Francisco. So just to be honest, man, he just joined the Standard, which is sort of a mentorship group, uh, sort of a club of high level individuals, that want to join it. And one of our guys just joined in San Francisco, and he's quite tapped into the real estate lane. He knows a whole lot about mortgage lending,
Yep.
and he has his own investments. So that's a high level mind, man, that I would highly recommend you guys get on.
Absolutely. I had a phone call with him a couple months ago when we were talking about a commercial deal. So
Really?
I'll shoot him a text about it.
Okay. Okay. Nice.
But yeah, I appreciate that recommendation. And then lastly, and the most important question, if our listeners want to get in contact with you to learn more about real estate, learn more about what you're doing, how can they do that?
Yeah, man. So I'm decently active on Instagram. That would be the main way. Um, so my Instagram handle is Mr. Jr. Garcia. So Mr. Garcia. And my phone number is, just kidding. But yeah, bro, just a message on Instagram would be the best way to get at me.
Awesome. And you can find me on all social media at Sean Lacey7. Hit me up on LinkedIn at Sean Lacey. And also make sure to check out thefli.net. Check out the Financial Literacy Institute on Instagram, our podcasts on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, all the above. Man, JR, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Great episode. You shared so much value, so much knowledge. And I think it's a lot of tangible stuff too that our listeners are going to be able to take and put in play. So I
Mhm.
appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate you explaining everything. And we can't wait to have you back on the show once you get your land hack together and the next 7 investment properties too.
Hey man, I highly appreciate you. I highly appreciate what you guys are doing, bro. You and your team are really making big moves, and I've seen how you guys are extremely involved with helping guys with your basic, course for free, right? All your resources for free, up to the tiers of being able to call right into you and get y'all's knowledge, man. So I appreciate what you're doing, bro. I'm going to be a lifetime supporter, and I look forward to growing with you guys, bro. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. And I appreciate the plug there too. So thank you all for taking the time to listen to this episode. This has been another episode of On the Fly, a Financial Literacy Institute podcast. Y'all take care.